I mean, this is a case that obviously was important to her.
Yeah, and that rate is low, right? Let's just admit that up front. For an expert of that caliber, absolutely, I agree with you. All right, we have to take a break. When we come
TV Live, I'm Michael Ayala here with Judge Ashley Wilcott. We're bringing you really incredible coverage today of Colorado versus Leticia Stauch. Remember, she is charged with murder and the death of her 11-year-old stepson, Gannon. And she is claiming insanity at the time of the event, a very brutal murder. And whether that defense carries the day has everything to do with this testimony. Dr. Dorothy Lewis, a clinical psychiatrist, a professor at Yale, testifying about her condition and her 14 hours of interviews and reviewing all the interviews she did with police, all of her clinical background, talking with family members, really did an extensive, thorough look at her life and came up with some conclusions. She was just talking about all the lies she told, something everyone has had a problem with, and kind of explains it that it's not something someone normal would do. Right? They're so incredible, so crazy that it's all part of her psychosis. Now, as I take you back in for the end of her direct examination, she gives her opinion as to the mental state of Leticia Stauch at the time of death of Gannon. So let's get back into that.
The time of the death of Gannon.
Yes.
What is your opinion?
Well, I think that she was that assuming that this area is about the time that Gannon was killed.
Yes.
She was psychotic at the time. She was not in touch with reality, and she did not. I don't think she knew the difference between right and wrong. I don't know whether she even knew what she was doing.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Lewis.
Cross-examination.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gill.
What's the legal definition of insanity in the state of Colorado, Doctor?
I believe that you must know the nature of what you have done and that it was wrong, and that also I think that you do add on a bit of the Durham decision, which has to do with if you cannot control your behaviors, such as to comply with the requisites of law. I believe that that is also part of an insanity defense here.
Did you look at the statute regarding insanity for the state of Colorado prior to rendering an opinions in this case?
I did, but I would have to look at it again to look at it. And I've also discussed it with others, which is why I added the Durham decision and the ability to conform your behavior, because to my mind, in many courts where I've testified, that is no longer accepted. But it was my understanding from the attorneys that that is also an aspect of insanity, the inability to conform your behavior to what is required by law.
Is that the aspect that you used in rendering your opinions in this case?
That is only one of the aspects.
Well, tell us the elements. This is what you're here for. You're here to testify that this defendant was saying at the time she committed this crime. I'd like you to explain to the jury now what law you used in rendering that opinion.
Would you permit me to read it, and I will tell you what aspects of it
You're the expert,
concentrated on. By and large, I used a McNaughton definition of whether the person knew the nature of what he or she was doing and that it was wrong. And so that was my, that was my orientation. And then I was pleased to learn from the attorneys that also the inability to conform one's behavior to the requirements of law was also part of the definition in Colorado. The accuracy of that, I don't know, but we have discussed it, and I've said that I was surprised. I was unaware that in the other states, that since the Reagan shooting, I had thought that most of that was not any longer recognized, but I was told by the attorneys that that was one of the other factors that played a role.
As you sit here right now, do you know the legal definition of insanity in the state of Colorado?
If you would show me show me as it is written out, I will tell you whether this is what I used. I can't say it to you verbatim, but the idea has to do with whether you knew the nature of what you were doing and that it was wrong.
Well, clearly you have experience in testifying in criminal cases. You said 100 or 200 times, right?
Right.
And so you know that when you write a report, that report comes to the prosecution, comes to the defense, it goes to the court, correct?
Yes, usually.
And in your report, you want to put what the legal definition of insanity is in the state of Colorado, because that's what you're here for. That's what you're here to testify about, correct?
When you have written a complete report with all of the data that you require to come to that conclusion, and then try to go word by word with the definition.
All right, they are really going after her, they being the state, the prosecution, about what is the legal definition of insanity in Colorado, because that's what you're here to testify about. Michael, a fascinating approach to take by the state. I want to thank Melba Pearson for being with us, and Michael, I'd love